Welcome to FiST Chat, your source for news and discussions in film science and technology, hosted by Steve Kern and Ben Warner. Visit our website at fistchat.com. Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast where we discuss all things related to film science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again in the flesh by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks Ben. Hi FiST Chat fans, we're obviously together, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to scare people. This is going to be our second to last episode of FiST Chat.
That's correct.
And we're going to film the last episode very shortly, so we're doing them back to back. But have no fear, we're going to explain how this is all going to work very shortly. So it's all good. You may have also noticed we've changed a couple of our social media feeds and things like that. It's funny, Twitter, you could just change it just like that.
That's right.
Facebook has a 14-day waiting period before they'll change it.
And only one change too, I believe, is allowed.
Exactly right. So we won't be changing it again unless we go for a whole new page. And Google Plus had to be a whole new page as well, which is interesting. But yeah, we'll explain that in our final episode. But we've got our final sort of regular episode now.
Right.
Where we go through a few news bites and that sort of thing. So we thought for this one we'd just do one film story, one science story, and one tech story, and that'd be a nice way to finish it up. And obviously we've got a sad one for the film one, as you would expect. This was quite a big shock with Robin Williams tragically passing away just recently, and it's caused a huge amount of I guess it's become a huge story, and it's become an outpouring of grief from just about everyone. And I think just before we got on, you were mentioning that anyone from the age of 10 and above would have laughed to Robin Williams in some form or another.
Absolutely. Very funny man who had a wide sort of array of talents, and film, stand-up comedy, he could do anything.
Exactly.
Made animation big as well through his characterizations with Pixar. So I think, whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, whether you like comedy, whether you like more serious films, he's played a role. You've probably enjoyed it. You've laughed with him, that's for sure. And so I think just goes to show how much laughter touches us all.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually watching a couple of clips on YouTube earlier in the week. There was one where I think it was one of his final stand-up routines where he kind of basically pulled George W. Bush under the carpet, kind of and rolled him pretty well because he was obviously democratically a Democrat, obviously. But another good one that I saw was back from Happy Days when he meets Fonz for the first time, and just watching how young and sort of vibrant he was, he really just kind of took over the whole thing.
Well, that's right, and they do say that I think the original Mork and Mindy scripts are only half the length of a typical American sitcom because they would allow him to improv through half of the show, and he was very good at that. And anyone who's familiar with his stand-up comedy, so if you look at anything like Robin Williams live at the Met around the mid-'80s, you probably shouldn't do it if you're under 18, but, very, very funny, very, very talented comedian and great actor too. I mean, roles like Dead Poets.
Yeah. Or even smaller ones like 1 Hour Photo. That was, I mean, that's not really as well known, but
the characterization's brilliant.
And he just nailed it so well.
Yeah.
It's just a sort of a tragic loss, I think, and I think everyone kind of felt it, I think. I don't think we're going to be seeing the likes of someone like him for, again, maybe.
Probably not again with the way the film industry is today. He came through, I guess, in that Saturday Night Live crowd, part of that era when it was very big in the 70s, and a lot of very talented people. Of course, comedy's different today, so maybe we'll see a talent like his again, but it won't look the same. We certainly won't see another Good Morning Vietnam.
No, exactly right. All right, we'll move on now. Our science story for today from The Age. Agricultural science, the science of meat production. Thought this would be an interesting way to go. And Professor Robin Warner is one of those inspiring academics who exude infectious curiosity and have a genuine passion for solving scientific problems. With her team, she investigates the biochemistry and microstructure underpinning the colour, flavour and texture of meat in order to understand how to improve them to support the future of a sustainable meat industry. Quite interesting. And you would think there'd have to be a lot of work for that because meat is, I mean, it's always been popular, you know, as a meal, but you think now like there's so many of these specialty steak restaurants and the like around the place, they have to be getting this meat on a constant basis from somewhere, and it has to be, I guess, good quality, and it has to be a sustainable way to keep it coming in, I guess.
Well, I think you know, we're moving through a very interesting period. I hear the other day that we might be approaching peak gluten, but that's
peak gluten,
which is that's a topic for another time. But you know, I guess the way people eat today, their expectations of the food they eat, the ethical considerations, not just for animal suffering, but you know, for things like climate change and the impact of you know, meat. Or the meat production in that. It's interesting to see that. So there are a number of different ways you can look at it. Certainly, I think there's no question that meat will continue to get more and more expensive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, with the benefit of science like this, you probably expect it to improve in quality.
Kind of sort of in a flashback, didn't we have that story we went through on synthetic meat?
Yes, synthetic meat. So
if that's ever going to become an option at some point?
Well, it's an option now if you can afford $300,000 for a hamburger. but you know, somewhere along the way, you know, it's quite possible that it'll become easier, quicker, and more ethical to produce synthetic meat. In the meantime, I think really what we need to learn to do as a society is to probably eat less meat. Certainly, we've probably overconsume it would be one argument. And so, therefore, you know, the quality of the meat that we eat and the way in which we use it is probably the most important thing. Yeah. And that's where food science like this is very interesting. For instance, I don't know, the last week or two, there's been a video going around where they compare frozen steak straight out of the freezer, cooking it with fresh. And it was interesting. Some of the techniques and the science behind that is the sort of things that they're talking about, Robin Warner and her team looking at, where... You know, there are all sorts of, you know, secrets to the science, you know, in everything we do. And the structure of meat, the flavours within meat, how they're held there and the best ways to cook them are all things that once you understand, and a lot of, obviously, the high-level chefs do, you can make amazing flavours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a nice Wagyu rump steak last night, actually, at the new the Ibis or Ibis Hotel on Grenfell Street.
Very good.
And it's good to have a good quality steak.
Excellent. Absolutely, heavily marbled, full of flavour. You know,
it's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and just finally, our tech news bite. Tech giants gambling on health technology, and we could probably spend a bit of time discussing this before we get to this Sydney Morning Herald article. Obviously, there's seems to be a lot of interest in health from these tech giants, and it's almost like they went through this process of developing all these smartphones and whatever, and they're iterating, and now they've sort of started to focus on health.
Yeah.
Obviously, Samsung and Android have had their sort of things already hit the market, and there's always these rumours of Apple with its iWatch and how that's going to fit in. I mean, I'm not, me personally, I'm not really into all this stuff until, you know, I'm sort of convinced that there's something there that's useful. You know, a good old pedometer on the belt usually gets the job done for me if I really want to start measuring
data log on a watch.
Yeah, that's true. But just as an example, in this article, we've got a pharmacist, I think his name's Tuan Vu, plays basketball. He laces his feet into a pair of Nike Humperdunk Plus shoes fitted with a sensor that sends data to his iPhone. He can see how far he's run and how high he's jumped, and by setting himself goals, he aims for at least 2 kilometres per game. He can not only play to win, but also have a benchmark for a successful workout, amongst other devices he uses to track his health.
That's right.
But he's got a long way to go when you compare him to American Chris Dancy, who is up to 700 systems recording data about himself, including a smart mattress cover, or graphic designer Nicholas Felton, who produces an annual report of his life. Life logging I believe is what it's called.
Yep. It certainly is.
Now, is it potential to go a bit too nuts with this sort of stuff?
Well, I think this goes straight on from what we were talking about last week with the new style processors and, thinking chips and...
Your shirt's got a chip in it kind of thing.
Yeah, so the reality is if you're young and you're fit, I guess you might want to show just how young and fit you are, and what would be better than, it was a 700-page report or something, the annual report, 700
lifelong
apps
report.
Of every aspect of your life. That might be something that a prospective partner would want to see to make sure you're fit and healthy and living life to the max. But I guess the thing is that for the first time ever, the capacity is there.
Yeah.
No, I don't expect everyone to adopt it. But from a health perspective, really... we've talked about sleep apps here over the duration and other e-health sort of apps. And I guess you kind of think about it and, if you could map every area of your life, and very often when we do have problems, we're very vague about them. I haven't felt well for a couple of weeks. Well, why weren't you feeling well? I don't know. I haven't been sleeping well, or, haven't been eating well or something, but we're very vague.
Yeah.
Life logging, you would probably be able to track a lot of trends.
Yeah.
Look for instances, I was on the 14th that I started feeling bad. Well, why was that? Well, maybe I injured something or has some sort of emotional significance. So I do think that there's actually value in it. How much value, I don't think we can know.
But is it, you'd want it to be sort of... automated to a great extent. Otherwise, you'll be spending your whole time tracking everything. Although, on the flip side, I was just thinking then that maybe, when you get older and your health starts to deteriorate a bit, and say if you have to go into an aged care service, that maybe having this sort of technology around might be helpful, for taking care of residents and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But even just on a day-to-day basis, so say you go and you get your cholesterol checked and it's incredibly high, but you've logged everything you've eaten for the last 3 years. Potentially your physician could look at your diet and just say, well, all these things have to go.
Assuming you're putting everything in there and not anything that's sneaking in.
Well, it's true, but I think the propensity today is people are, certainly the younger generation, are exceptionally honest on social media, I think, about
Well, I think they realise that if you're not honest, everyone will know straight away.
Well, that's right. So, perhaps then, if you had log your diet, it's not that hard to log your diet.
No.
Like some of the apps are very easy. Some of the apps.
Well, if you're doing things like tracking expenses and things like that with budget apps and finance apps, there's no reason why you couldn't do it.
You can extend it to that now. I'd use a lot of data logging. I don't share it with anyone because I don't actually think anyone's actually interested in it.
Oh, well, I appreciate you introducing me to the Sleep Cycle app. That was quite
interesting. The Sleep Cycle app's very good. I've now got almost 1,000 nights of data, and it's quite interesting looking back. So, I can actually see various instances in my life where my sleep has been affected for a number of months, whether I've been working on projects or been on a tour or something like that. So, I guess the thing is it's probably no use in the short term. Does it really matter, how many steps I took today? No, but you can actually see patterns over years or a couple of years. And I think that down the track, statistically, as they get better at predicting health indicators, especially, or lifestyle indicators as they'll become, you'll be able to, take that data somewhere. God, you'll probably be able to get it done automatically online.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to adjust habits and log habits to change habits for your own personal health. So I think it can get a little bit excessive. The simplest thing would be just do everything in moderation, get plenty of sleep and all that sort of thing. Don't drink alcohol, don't eat too much, eat the right foods. But the other thing would be to just do all of that and log it, and and then just work out what you need to change about yourself a few years down the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there for our second to last episode and our final proper sort of FiST chat in its current form episode.
Absolutely. But as we'll probably assure you in an episode shortly, that you will still be able to enjoy these sorts of discussions with us on a regular basis.
Absolutely. So don't forget our website, FiSTchat.com, and that's actually going to continue on. So what will probably happen is at some point that you'll probably see that start redirecting to our new website, which is scitechculture.com, so SCITECH culture.com. So actually, in the past I used to like, with these websites sort of completely finishing them before putting them out there, but I think this time what we might do is it's built out of WordPress, so you'll be able to see it evolve as we're doing it. We've already got a few bits and pieces up there already, so you'll see it evolve over time, and I just think that's an interesting way of seeing it, so that way you guys can see what we're doing and how we're sort of adjusting things, but we'll explain that in our next episode coming up shortly. We've got our ebooks, so the FiST report, the last 2 years worth, they're available on Amazon, 99 cents each. We've got our weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr, and although perhaps our name may be changing and some of our content may be changing, we're still going to have these discussions, so if you think anyone's interested in tuning in every week, just send them to one of those websites and they'll be able to find us and get all the links.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you for our final one very shortly.